Rock 95, that is From Ashes to New with Broken. Spence, good morning, and doing a little extra duty today, joining me online here. We're on Facebook. We're also on Twitter and YouTube this morning, is Tyler Boone. Good morning.
Hey there, good morning.
Good to speak with you. I have a lot of questions because there's not a lot of information about you, but we picked up on you on a couple of weeks ago or so, Tyler, with Gettin High, and I was just going to check the votes here in just a second. We'll get that in a minute, but give us a little backstory, a little back history of how you started in this business. I know you're, I think, originally from South Carolina, if I read that right.
Yeah. Yeah. So thanks for having me, man. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I used to live in Nashville. I own a bourbon company. It's called Boone's Bourbon. Launched that 2 years ago when I moved back to Charleston, and I moved out to LA last September. So I live out in Los Angeles now.
Okay, well, cool. So are you an independent artist right now?
Yeah, so I'm independent. I am signed. This single came out. I'm usually independent, but this song came out on Tom Serig's label. It's called Anti-Fragile Music. Tom Serig managed like Lou Reed back in the day, Cake, Against Me, Gaslight Anthem. This is the first single off that record, but I also own a record label called Artist Formula. I used to manage bands. I used to manage a band called Driving and Crying from the 80s, Straight to Hell. And then our label just does a whole bunch of stuff. We work with majors and indies. I work with Capitol Records to Sony to small records to indies, and I work with a lot of bands that play on your station, like the Black Moods, Royal Bliss. I worked with those guys for years. So,
cool. Those are all great people. Yeah, you're surrounding yourself with some good people.
Yeah, man. So I mean, it's definitely. I mean, dude, it's been crazy since COVID for everybody, but everyone focuses on the internet because you can't tour really right now. So my label Artist Forum has been kind of overwhelmed. It's been great, man. So, and then with the music, we were like, hey, should we go to the radio? I'm like, well, there's nothing else to do. So I'm glad we did it. So.
Okay. Cool. Well, tell me about the rest of the band. How are you putting all of this together? Who's helping you out?
Well, dude, I started doing Tyler Boone stuff a long time ago because I used to always be in bands, and then the band would break up, and then you have a record and you spend all this money, and and especially as a musician coming up, to spend money on a record is like everything, you know what I mean? And then it's why do we do that? So I'm just like a songwriter, definitely a guitar player first, but I just always hire dudes. So the guys out here on that single is pretty cool. This guy named Paul Ill, amazing bass player. He's like, third string for Bob Weir, Grateful Dead, Linda Perry. His credentials are insane. So this guy Dan Petroche, drummer, he's played with some amazing people as well. We have this guy Chris Wanzer, engineer it. He goes back with like Linda Perry too, same kind of crew with Paul Ill. But we had Eric Bass of Shinedown, who's an old friend of mine. I used to run his studio for years. He mixed the single. So that was awesome. Only reason I got him, I swear to God, because I could text him whenever. The only reason I got him is because they're not on tour. So he's just at home hanging out. And I was like, would you mix this? He's like, I got nothing to do, man. So it was really cool. He made the song, like, obviously it sounded cool, but he made the mix that much better. I mean, I don't know if people know this, but Eric Bass has been a producer for years. So, and I basically booked the studio, and then, I would do a whole bunch of other stuff too, but he's done a whole bunch of pop stuff to rock and roll stuff, so it was cool, man.
Well, I like the sound. It's got a little bit of a bluesy, little retro rock sound to it. It's fantastic.
Well, I like it too, man. I want to go for like the Black Keys type Jack White stuff, So.
Well, tell me about the track. There's a little bit of a metaphor to it, but tell me about the track.
Oh yeah. So it's called Gettin High, right? So it's not about, getting high as in like, on drugs or whatever. It's about getting high, like literally on life, because when I moved out to Los Angeles, obviously, I had a plan, but, I wasn't know it was going to work out. And so just moving out here to LA, how things got better. Because when I used to live in Nashville, things were not so great. I just graduated college and had like no money, man. So living off a credit card, working at a liquor store, it was crazy. And then moving out here, it's just been It's been awesome. So it's kind of like an auto bio tune kind of. So it was like the first track I wrote out here too. So I was like, hey, this should be the first single. So yeah.
So you've got an AP or a full LP that are in the works now, or are you going to release that?
Full length, but dude, we can't finish the album just yet because they keep shutting down everything. So we just can't go in the studio. And the only people in the big studios out here, it's like only high profile clients. So like we just have to wait until it's safe to go back in, because you're in a building all day with like a couple people in a close quarter. They don't want that happening. So, but yeah, full length record, man. So
well, cool. I can't wait for that. But you're getting some pretty good legs across the country now with this song.
Yeah, man. I've been super lucky to be going to rock and AAA radio since 2014. So, I feel like every time, obviously, it's like, building a band, building a brand, people will keep recognizing the name. So I'm super glad you guys chose me. And that was, those, I guess you call them cage fights, where it's like the voting thing, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to win. And then it did. So that was dope. So thanks so much.
I think you were ahead in votes the last I checked this week as well. So we'll see. But it's a lot of those things like you talked with our mosh pit and other things and Friday fights. A lot of stations do that kind of stuff. It gives us a chance to kind of try something out and let the listener hear something that maybe they normally wouldn't hear. And so they get a taste of bands like you. And I think the song fits perfectly with kind of a mainstream and active rock stuff that we're doing here. But that's why I like
thanks, man.
And like taking a chance on bands like you, and we get to have conversations like this too. But what are the plans in the future? I know it's unpredictable with how this COVID-19 thing goes, but I know you're probably chomping at the bit to get out and perform in front of people.
Yeah, man. Like, we were just to play Summerfest in Milwaukee. I'm sure you're familiar with that festival. It's been our third year in a row. Didn't happen, obviously. Supposed to play Louisville, Bourbon and Beyond with my bourbon, obviously. It's like what is it? It's hometown. It's called the Tri-Fest. It's called Hometown Rising, Ladder in Life, which is like Metallica, which would be like the active rock one. And then the last one's Bourbon Beyond, which would be like more AAA. So that'd be like Foo Fighters or something. That got canceled, and that was going to be freaking incredible. So, moving also too, man, from the East Coast to the West Coast, what I've learned from everybody out here is there's not a lot of gigs. You know what I mean? You got to travel far. In the Midwest, and then on the East Coast, you could drive a couple hours and you're in the next town. You know what I mean? So definitely haven't had my gig fix in a long time. So it stinks, man. But I guess you get to focus on other things like writing music. You know what I mean? So because you can go tour forever and then be like, oh my God, it's a year. You know what I mean? So you just got to focus on different things.
I'm so curious, Tyler, to how we come out of this, because even prior to this, some of the live shows and live venues and things were kind of odd, especially locally. So I'm curious as how this is going to, play out eventually. Maybe people like once we're safe again, if people are like, hey, let's go out and support live rock and roll again. I hope that's the case, but I'm kind of curious to see where this is going to go.
I think people are going to go crazy. You know what I mean? They're going to want to go see shows. Excuse me?
I like your attitude, Tyler. I love it.
Heck yeah, man. I mean, think about it. I think it's going to be overwhelming. One of the big dudes at, was it like Live Nation or something the other day, said not till 2022. I don't know if I believe that, but I think everyone's going to be, I hope to God that people still have their jobs though, because, talent buyers only make money when there was a concert, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so you just hope people don't fold. I know the UK got bailed out with a whole bunch of money, and it's pretty, it stinks that they haven't done that for the US, because those are real jobs. You know what I mean? I'm really close with my buddy Hoogie, who is Eric Bass's tech of Shinedown, right? And so he's made like a podcast radio show with a DJ. He lives in Canada. With like a rock station up there. They've been doing something like that. And he's just trying to innovate. But, I always talk to him, and he's just like, yeah, man, like, I just hope that when we come back, you know what I mean, that the people that I work with are still around. Like, they didn't have to go get a job somewhere else. And it's scary, man. Live music is real job. They're real jobs too. you know?
Amen. Yeah, no doubt about it. Where can people find out more about you? I know you're on Facebook and other places too, and you've got a bunch of things that people can already download and purchase right now.
Yeah, man. You could find the music, just Tyler Boone Music, TYLERBOONE. Spotify, obviously, that's like our biggest thing. Pandora's been popping off lately. That's pretty cool. And then, if you want, check out the bourbon. We're going to be in Minnesota eventually one day. So drink boonsbourbon.com. So, yep.
I'll definitely check that out. You ever get close to us, Tyler, you're always invited here.
Heck yeah, man, dude. I'd love to pop by and give you guys a bottle too. That'd be cool. So
here we go. Let's have a snort. Sure. Why
yeah.
not? It's 10:30, 8:30 your time, or 8:40, whatever. Tyler, thank you so much for your time. Wish you all the best, and maybe our paths will cross again. And let's fire up the song.
No, dude, thank you so much for playing it. It's so cool.
Let's do it. There's Tyler Boone and Gettin High.
Nice.
All right, still there?